All right, so I've been using the iPhone Air for less than a day, and one of the biggest things is just how amazingly thin this guy is. First, just even exposure to this guy, first time I saw it, first time I unboxed it, I was just dumbfounded by how thin this thing is. It is absolutely amazing that Apple was able to do this. Now, a few things that I want to talk about today. One of those being, of course, the durability aspect and then the battery performance. I won't be able to give you guys a full rundown of the battery since it's only been less than a day that I've had the device, but I do have some thoughts on it regardless. So just to sort of run through a couple of specs, this is the sky blue color, if you guys can really tell. I know in some certain lighting conditions it sort of looks white, but this is the sky blue model. Besides that, it is 5.6 millimeters thin. It weighs in at 165 grams. And that's actually also surprising. It is pretty light. Of course, the name sort of suggests it, the iPhone Air. One of the other things is that it's actually pretty well balanced. Besides the fact that a lot of the components actually live on the plateau, what Apple calls it, it feels pretty balanced. It doesn't feel top heavy or bottom heavy, which is great, and just adds to the overall feeling of the device and how premium it actually feels and look. Now, as far as durability goes, Apple did have a ceramic shield 2 on the front and back. And essentially what that means is better crack and scratch resistance, as well as, you know what, they actually added the anti-reflective coating as well. I'll go ahead and talk about that real quick. But with the anti-reflective coating, I have a Galaxy S25 here somewhere. In comparison, I'd say that the S25 or Samsung just generally does it a little better so far. But it is nice to finally see it here on the iPhone, or Apple sort of including it with their lineup this year. I'm sure we'll get improvements as the years go by, but it is nice to finally see it here with the iPhone Air as well. Now we have seen a ton of people sort of bench test, torture test this guy, and we can safely assume that the iPhone Air is pretty durable, to say the least. It is made out of 80% recycled titanium. Now we know that titanium isn't the best for heat dissipation. We know that because Apple actually themselves went back to aluminum on the Pro variant. The A19 Pro chip. I think that the A19 Pro chip isn't necessarily here for the performance aspect of it. Of course, it's going to add better performance. It's not going to be as highly performing as the Pro variants. Obviously, those have the vapor cooling chambers, so you're going to get less throttling there. I think it's here for better battery efficiency. That, along with the C1X modem, that is specifically designed for the iPhone Air. I think they're going to be pretty big contributing factors as to how the battery is going to perform in the day-to-day. Apple does claim an all-day battery life. I don't know that, of course, just yet. So far, it might not seem that way, and I'm pretty sure that's why they also introduced the MagSafe battery pack. I actually did not purchase one, which is crazy. It's $100. I'm gonna just raw dog it, screw it. But for the most part, it doesn't seem like it might be an all-day battery life. I think it just depends on the user. If you are someone that just normally uses their device not for pro features or for consuming a lot of content, let's say it's just emails, texting, just the generic sort of way of using your device, I think it'll get you through a full day. I think for the heavier user, people that are constantly consuming content, either using your devices to take pictures, video, content creation, this might not be the phone that you might want to go with. On top of that, the cameras, it only has one 48 megapixel fusion camera, so no 3 cameras like on the iPhones. It's pretty obvious. There's only one here in the back. It is defaulted to 24 megapixels straight out of the box, and then if you want to utilize the full 48, there is a setting in the camera settings that you're just going to have to go ahead and switch on. There is an 18 megapixel front facing camera. As far as that goes, there is center stage with it, and then what we would call open gate. Sorry, my camera just died. But essentially with open gate, it's basically utilizing the entire sensor. So it's capturing more data, you're capturing more of the actual frame, which is pretty neat actually. But besides that, again, one 48 megapixel camera. I think Apple, if they would have included a secondary camera, whether that be an ultra wide or a telephoto lens, I think this phone would have just killed the Pro models. Now, one of the other things is that even though it does include the A19 Pro chip, there's not a lot of Pro features that get trickled down in terms of software features. So you're not getting any of the log footage, you're not getting raw photos. That might be a deal breaker for some. For some others, it might not be. But just keep in mind that these aren't trickled down from, those features aren't trickled down from the Pro variants down to the iPhone Air. So a few of the biggest complaints that I've actually seen is that the phone tends to rock on tables, and that's just due to the camera lens sort of protruding a little more than the actual plateau. It's not that big of a deal, especially if most of us are going to be rocking cases on these guys. It's essentially going to mitigate that issue. We're not going to see it, so that's not that big of a deal. Now, I'm sure a lot of people might even go caseless. Who knows? It is an extremely thin device. It's, again, I think a device that you want to show off, but at the same time, if you are someone that fumbles the devices a lot or is pretty clumsy, I definitely recommend slapping a case on this guy, and that should essentially just help with the overall rocking of the device. The other complaint that I have seen is the actual speaker. So you're only getting one speaker that's located here towards the top, where the earpiece is. The bottom actually only has 2 microphones, so no speakers there. And as far as it goes, or as far as I'm concerned, one of the biggest things was that if you're sort of consuming content horizontally, it affects the overall experience. It doesn't give you that much of an immersive experience as it normally would if you had speakers on both sides. But besides that, if you're just doom scrolling, stuff like that, you're not going to notice it that much. So whether or not you do that, you know, there's sort of that trade-off. Obviously, the reason why they don't have them is because of how thin the device is. So there's trade-offs to having such an abnormally thin device. Yeah, let me know what you guys think. If you guys have any questions, drop them down below. If you guys want to see more of me, more of these types of videos, go ahead and hit subscribe as well as the like button. Thanks a lot for watching, guys, and we'll see you guys on the next one. Later.